Solo, A Star Wars Story is finally out. After a rocky production, the swashbuckling origin story is finally here, chock full of references and small hidden details. In case most of them went over your head, we got you covered with this extensive list. And of course, spoiler alert for Solo.
Ready? Now!
Before we get started, be sure to subscribe to the channel and hit that little bell to stay up to date with everything Screen Rant.
It is a compliment. Clearly somebody's trying to hide something.
Second rodeo. When we first meet Woody Harrelson's Beckett, we also get to meet his ragtag team of misfits. One of them is his literal partner in crime, Val, while his associate is actually a monkey-looking alien creature named Rio Durant, who is a pilot blessed with 4 arms. He seems inspired partially at least by Guardians of the Galaxy's Rocket Raccoon and plays a similar role. If the voice seemed a little familiar though, that's because he's played by a renowned actor and director. The man behind the little alien is none other than Jon Favreau. He's directed such films as Iron Man and The Jungle Book and starred in Elf and Spider-Man Homecoming.
What the hell are you wearing?
It's my suit.
But Favreau isn't a stranger to the Star Wars franchise. He's actually voiced a character in the Clone Wars animated TV series, making Rio the second character he's voiced. In the Clone Wars, he voiced the Mandalorian Pre Vizsla, who was the leader of the splinter group known as Death Watch. Not too many actors can get the credit of voicing multiple characters in Star Wars unless they're background characters, so Favreau must be doing something right. Next up, Favreau will executive produce a live-action Star Wars TV series and will direct the pilot episode. So he's busy.
Must have known you'd see me again.
Cloud Riders. In the film, we're introduced to the pirate marauder Enfys Nest and the Cloud Riders. They're the bane of Beckett's existence as they constantly sweep in on over whatever job he's working on and try to steal the job from under him. In Solo, they continue that trend, showing up during the train heist and towards the end of the film.
Of course, now you've got a problem.
If you're a longtime Star Wars fan and have read through the old expanded universe, the book timeline before the Disney Lucasfilms purchase, then the name Cloud Rider may have stood out to you. They first appeared in the original Star Wars comic back in 1978. Much like in Solo, the Cloud Riders were a swoop gang who would raid the same village once a year. In the comic, they were led by a character named Sergi X Arrogantis. Yeah. Doesn't quite roll off the tongue, does it? The villagers reached out to Han and Chewie for aid, and the two groups ended up in quite the showdown. While the old stories aren't part of the canon, this is another example of how the current canon is cherry-picking their old stories and applying them to the new tales.
Working on a very big deal.
How big?
Enormous.
Cameos. It wouldn't be a Star Wars movie without a certain series of cameos to keep your eyes open for. They've become more of a thing in the Disney era as many actors are aching to get on the set in a galaxy far, far away. There's a few cameos in Solo and there's a good chance you didn't even know about them. First up, there's Antony Daniels. Daniels is best known for playing C-3PO and has shown up in every Star Wars film to play the Golden Chatterbox.
You watch your language.
But 3PO wasn't in this film, nor would it make any sense for him to be in the movie. So who was he? He was actually the Wookiee friend of Chewie who helped the crew out during the escape. Chewie had the choice of joining his people, but ended up sticking around with Han.
Come off, they're Hollywood.
Ron Howard's brother, Clint Howard, was also in the film as the referee of the droid battle ring. L337 ends up grabbing Clint's face, forcing Lando to tell her to let go of the mean man's face. Lastly, Warwick Davis returns to Star Wars. He's best known for playing Wicket in Return of the Jedi, but has shown up in almost every Star Wars film since. This is the first time we've seen his face on camera since Phantom Menace, and he actually plays the same character by the name of Weasel.
There's a lesson to be learned here.
Business partners. Early on in Solo, before the amazing train heist scene takes place, Beckett and his partner Val talk about possible recruits for the job before signing on Han and Chewie. Beckett went through a series of candidates, and if you're a die-hard Star Wars fan who knows all the background character names, you'll have caught on to this little name drop. One of the possible candidates for the train heist was none other than Bossk. If you can't recall who he is, Bossk was the reptilian-looking bounty hunter seen on the bridge of Vader's Super Star Destroyer Destroyer in The Empire Strikes Back. His backstory was explored more in-depth in the animated series The Clone Wars, where we saw him working with a young Boba Fett. Bossk would have been part of the hunting party looking to capture Solo in Empire, so it's interesting to see that the two characters almost work together. Beckett seems to have a lot of dealings with the criminal underworld and the bounty hunters, which has us wondering who else he may have crossed paths with. With Beckett urging Han to go see Jabba, it's likely all of the scum and villainy in the galaxy.
Can I ask you a question, Captain Calrissian?
Aurra Sing. Not long after meeting Lando, it's not long before Beckett reveals he pushed Aurra Sing to her death. Lando is actually extremely happy with this news, as he owed Sing a lot of money. The exchange may seem like background noise to the casual fan, but die-hard Star Wars fans caught on quickly. Aurra Sing was first seen in The Phantom Menace during the pod race. She was a bounty hunter who was nothing more than a background character who became a more prominent villain in the animated show The Clone Wars. It's here that she would join with other bounty hunters like Bossk, Cad Bane, and a young Boba Fett to take on various jobs across the galaxy.
Enough talk.
Her fate was never revealed in Rebels, the spiritual sequel to the Clone Wars, which left many fans wondering what happened to some of the bounty hunters. Now, we have an answer for Sing. It's very likely that we could see the interaction between Beckett and Sing in the upcoming one-shot Marvel comic about Beckett. If not, this is a little bit of fan trivia that ties it back to the Clone Wars.
You're gonna need a nickname, because I ain't saying that every time.
Useful wardrobe. In order to infiltrate the minds of Kessel, Han and the crew have to orchestrate a plan that includes deception and disguises. Kira pretends to be an ambassador for another criminal outfit and presents Han and Chewie as slaves for the administrators of Kessel. Helping her is Beckett, who pretends to be her hired security. But Beckett's outfit is definitely familiar to those who've seen the original trilogy at least a few times. It's the same outfit that Lando wore in Return of the Jedi when infiltrating Jabba's palace in order to rescue Han. During the mission, Lando's alias is Tam Tel Screech, but it remains unclear if Beckett used an alias. Lando probably used Beckett's costume in the past to pull off various cons and jobs, so he had it stashed away in the Falcon for future use. When Han won the Falcon off of Lando, the costume either remained in the Falcon waiting for Lando to use it again, or the best-dressed gambler in the galaxy took all his clothing with him, including his incognito disguise. What do you think, though? Was the use of the Return of the Jedi costume too much fan service? Or is it a nice connective thread that connects the movies and characters?
I'm fine!
Setting up the future. You might remember in the trailer that Woody Harrelson's Beckett says that
Heard about a job. Big shot gangster, putting together crew.
we see a shot of Paul Bettany's Dryden Voss, the leader of Crimson Dawn, but this line has nothing to do with Voss or Crimson Dawn at all. As it turns out, this line was nothing more than a bit of setup to a story fans of the franchise will likely want to see. Beckett tells Han to find him on Tatooine, which means there's only one big shot gangster Beckett could be talking about. Yup. It's none other than Jabba the Hutt, the giant space slug from the original trilogy. Han ends up in a close partnership with Jabba over the years, doing plenty of jobs for him, but falling further into debt. It doesn't help that he was once boarded and had to dump his cargo before the Empire could catch him. That cargo was spice, the material the miners were extracting on Kessel in Solo. Spice is basically Star Wars drugs, and losing it means that Han ended up owing Jabba big time.
You're throwing away a fortune here. Don't be a fool!
It'll be interesting to see their relationship before they're falling out and Jabba putting a bounty on the scoundrel's head.
He doesn't like you. I'm sorry.
Shot first. In the original 1977 release of Star Wars, Han shoots down the bounty hunter Greedo in cold blood in the Mos Eisley Cantina. Deeming the scene to be a little too brutal for younger audiences, George Lucas altered the scene in the 1997 release and made it seem that Greedo shot first and Han only fired back in self-defense. The change infuriated fans, as the edit completely changed their perception of Han Solo. The original cut saw him more as a gunslinger, unafraid of taking out the threat before it happens. The scene was modified again in 2004 and in 2011 to make it seem like Han and Greedo shot at the same time. Solo, a Star Wars story, knows that the diehard fans believe man shot first. Confronting Tobias Beckett, who betrays Solo near the climax, Han decides to gun him down before Beckett even gets the chance to draw his weapon, solidifying that this man does indeed shoot first. Dark foreshadowing. Towards the end of Solo, fans were treated to a surprise cameo, and it was a big one for those who've only watched the films. Throughout the film, we've heard that Paul Bettany's crime boss, Dryden Voss, reported to an even more powerful crime lord, and that gangster turned out to be none other than Darth Maul. He goes by Maul now, and he survived the attack on Naboo way back in Phantom Menace. Since then, he's gone on to feature in Star Wars Rebels and in the Clone Wars, the latter of which saw him forming a criminal syndicate of his own. Evidence of Maul's involvement was hiding in plain sight in Voss's chamber. Voss has a Sith holocron on display in his ship. Seeing as his boss is the head of a powerful crime syndicate and has ties to the dark side, there's no other place such a holocron could have appeared from, and foreshadows the former Sith's apprentice's return to the big screen.
190 years old? You look great.
Well, that's it for now. Which little detail did you catch in the film on your first viewing? Let us know in the comments below, and be sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more videos like this in your playlist every day.